This will be one of these last personal shares with the NLP training for a while. You can tell because of the T-shirt, not the suit. This is will be about me sharing about my personal life and how I've applied NLP. But I also want to address a few very important things. I want to address grief. I want to address the concept of bypass, and also ecology. So, a lot of people, might consider NLP just bypass. Partly it's because they don't understand the actual technology, they don't understand how it works, and that's fine. It's a reasonable misconception, but it can actually be used for bypass, and but not for long. And so I have there's just sort of built-in ecology in our systems, and there's a few reasons. The certification that I received 27 years ago, and the certifications that my practitioners receive when they get certified, says something about respect for the ecology of the being. So I'm going to tell you what I mean by that, but also let's rewind to, me in my mid-20s, NLP master practitioner, I could do anything. Dun, 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 puppy power, or whatever I was doing at the time. And, just always resourceful state, resourceful state, resourceful state, resourceful state, because with NLP, you can actually adjust your state with, micro adjustments, and you can perform at a very high level under any circumstances, really. But you can do it with choice, right? So it gives you incredible choice. Well, I didn't like to feel bad. So in my, my mid-20s, late 20s, I virtually never felt pain, because the minute I felt it, I would make an adjustment internally, and I wouldn't feel it anymore. Right? It wasn't that I never felt it; it was that I feel it's icky. I'm going to shift that, and I knew how to do that with precision, which is useful in some contexts. But if you overgeneralize it to your whole life, it causes problems. So when I left my wife in 2003, I think ish. And I was still in love with her, but I realized I was dying spiritually in the marriage, and she wouldn't see a third party. And there's a whole bunch of reasons, but the important thing to note here is that I was madly in love with her when I left. So I left as a matter of, sort of survival for myself. And there's a bunch of very icky dynamics. That's a story for another time, around the divorce. But I left everything I thought I was, but I was still in love with her. So I was just, I wanted her to understand why I left, and I was trying to have this sort of relating with her, that she was like my mentor. He's like, I was like, I want her to understand. He said, you need to understand. She's never going to understand. I went, okay. But I'm still trying to resolve this grief. Now, that same mentor, he happened to be the NLP trainer and a licensed family therapist who developed the grief resolution process in NLP. And, I was talking to him almost daily at the time, and he was leading an intro to NLP weekend, and I volunteered to assist. And the whole time I was volunteering, I was in the back of the room, had my cap down, and I was just sort of weepy-eyed the whole time. That like, you're not really crying, but you can't really stop crying. You're just sort of leaky the whole time. And he knew exactly what was going on. But when he was going to demonstrate the grief resolution process, he asked for volunteers. And I said, I'll I put my hand up. And he goes, what's going on? For the purpose, of explaining to the group. So I said, well, I left my wife. He said, well, how long has it been? And I said, 3 months. And he goes, not long enough. Is there anyone else? Now, at first, I was pissed off. I was like, oh my God, he could take this pain away. He could take this pain away, right? And I realized later on that what had happened was, over the course of me using NLP to simply shift myself, shift my state, there was this undercurrent underneath. But also, the real problem was I had atrophied my capacity to deal with pain. So the real lesson there for me was that sometimes it's useful to have struggles, so that you build your capacity to deal with pain, and allow it to pass through, allow it to be with it. And then when it becomes unuseful for your life, like you're fix it on, or you can then shift it when it's the right time. And really, the client needs to, you have to have a conversation with the client that's about like, all right, well, let me know when you want to shift this, without imposing our perspective on when we think that should be. But if their life's not working, then now my life didn't work for a long time. And in a previous video, I talked about submodalities and like shifting where somebody's face is and having that very elegantly resolve a client of mine's fixation on an ex-girlfriend, not his most recent one, but like 2 girlfriends back. I already, in a previous video, I talked about that. And, just submodalities of like, we're not responding to reality, we're responding to our internal representations of reality. So, where's this person's face versus where's this person's face? And how do you feel when you shift those, right? I kept trying to do that with my ex-wife, Isabel. I kept trying to, and my unconscious mind was like, nope. And I, wait a minute. And it would snap back into the place of grief. So my internal system was like, no. And so I did some internal contemplation about it. And what I decided to make it mean was that it meant, well, when I say internal contemplation, I mean I asked my unconscious mind, because I have a great relationship with my parts in my unconscious mind. I asked them, what is happening here? And they said, well, there's still things you need to learn. So the next 6 months I spent, how was I responsible? What could I do differently? What can I put in place so these same types of mistakes don't happen again? And even some of my relationship material, if you just go to the evolutionary relationship section of evolutionary companies, some of the initial kernels of that was in me harvesting, all right, what structures can I put in place to avoid the predictable mistakes in the future? Now, it took like 6 months of me like constantly until I was full. I had mined it for all it was worth, in terms of, my own personal evolution. But the thing to take note of here is you can bypass, but not for long, because it'll eventually come up. Like, you won't be able to, even if you shift your state, there's going to be a background current you need to resolve. But more importantly, it will atrophy your capacity to deal with actual pain or deal with, sensations. So we build in ecology, and some of the ways that we do that is simply by asking, your internal parts if they're willing to make this change. And if they're not, we have a couple of options. Sometimes they're just cautious, they're protecting you, and they want to make sure that the practitioner is operating in a way that's in full alignment, which is fine. We love those parts. Sometimes those parts are like, you got to do these other things first. And by the way, I've dealt with clients who, the part presents a physical symptom, and we ask the part, what it would need to resolve that symptom, and it's like, well, they got to take this supplement, they got to do this thing, they got to, it's like diet or supplementation or self-care. And we ask the part if it, and the part's like, yeah, I don't believe that they're going to do that thing. And the part was to hang out for 6 weeks. But usually the unconscious mind will tell us how long it will take to resolve the thing if they keep their agreements with their internal parts. So bypass, grief resolution, and internal ecology. We always want to check in with our internal parts. One of the things you always want to do with a client in the initial stages of any change process is ask if there's any part of them that objects to making this change. And then you can find out more information about that, get into a deeper relationship with that part, because I generally trust the unconscious mind of all my clients. I certainly trust my own. All right, training starts, May 15th, the weekend of May 15th, Saturday and Sunday, 7 months long. It'll be my honor to guide you through very deep certification training so that you can serve your clients with ecology, but also with incredible efficacy.